Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Katie Miserani, Chief Communications Officer and Head of Marketing here at SurveyMonkey, and I'm so excited that you're here joining us for CuriosityCon. I am here with Beth McGrath from Lyft, and we're going to have a great conversation about all things marketing, customer listening, AI, all of it. So let's get into it. Beth, welcome. Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I've been at Lyft for about a year and a half. I lead partner B2B and product marketing at Lyft and absolutely love my job day in and day out. We sit on one of the world's most dynamic macroeconomic engines, and it's absolutely fascinating as a marketer to get to work on that. I also just love the human aspect of Lyft. It's connection between two people. It's helping people get done the things that they need to get done day in and day out. And yeah, we're a critical part of a lot of people's lives. And it's an amazing brand to get to work on.
Agree. We're just coming off the keynote here, and one of the things that I've been thinking about is we live in the most answer-rich time in history. Those of us who still remember, big data was the conversation 10 years ago. Now it's moved into AI. We've got all the data. AI is telling us what to do. The answers are quick, but it doesn't feel, at least to me, like the decisions are any less complex. I'm curious, are you feeling that at Lyft as well?
So at Lyft, we think a lot about really keeping our riders and drivers at the forefront of all of the decisions that we're making. And I think what's incredibly interesting about the way that we use AI is that our different AI implementations can take advantage of a lot of the amazing user research that we've done on both the rider and the driver side. But it doesn't necessarily make the decisions for us. We definitely are in a really fast-changing industry. And so the judgment, the life experience, the lived experience of many of the folks on our team is still largely what we're relying on to make decisions. But I think like many of us in the industry, everyone wishes decisions were being made faster.
Yeah, it's a common thread. One thing that you touched on that we talked about a little bit is this idea that AI amplifies whoever's using it. So it's in the hands of the operators. I think exactly what you told me earlier. And I think that's so true. There's some people in the workplace who can funnel all of their expertise into the prompts. They're putting in spreadsheets, and then they're working with it to figure out exactly what it's telling you and confirming their hunches. And then there's other people who are using it almost as kind of a shortcut. And so the end result is more shallow as a result of that. And we talked about that as this amplification of whoever's using it. How are you thinking at Lyft about figuring out who is a really strategic decision maker using data, and who are the people who are kind of hiding behind the data or doing something that's a little bit more shallow?
It's such a great question. I think AI is in the hands of its operator. Yeah. And we're doing a bunch of things at Lyft to both just improve our data cleanliness and make it more simple for more folks across the organization, whether they're early career or more seasoned, to get access to the data. Because I think the greater your lived experience within either the industry you work in or even at Lyft, we're finding that your ability to build novel insights is really determined by how much experience you have with AI, how good you are with the prompts, how good you are working with the tools. And so we found that the more we feed into our models in terms of data and insights, the better answers we get across the organization.
Yeah.
But I will say, I agree with you completely that I think our more seasoned folks, we tend to see our more seasoned folks using AI to do much more complex, sort of strategic working through of questions. And then our early career folks are really helping get those more senior people what they need in order to feel confident and comfortable in the decisions that they're making. So I think across the board, we're using AI, and I guess we've sort of settled into a pattern of using AI like an associate or an intern for people at all levels of the organization.
Yeah. We here in the room have a bunch of earlier career SurveyMonkey marketing employees who are amazing. What do you think it means for folks on that level? You spoke about getting the more senior folks what they need. How are you thinking about the earlier career marketers on your team?
It's such a great question. I had a conversation with my team just a couple weeks ago where a couple folks on my team were testing out creating full go-to-market plans in our AI tool. And I think initially the reaction was, of course, of concern, because that's something that, especially product marketers, that's their bread and butter. And I think what we've seen is that for our more early career employees, it's actually shortening their learning curve, because they have almost, in some cases, a more experienced marketer that they can dialogue with about the product or the feature that they're trying to launch. And for our more seasoned employees, I think they're finding that it helps them find the insights that they need to really drive their strategic thinking. And it's also helping with blind spots. I think all of us as marketers, all of us as experienced communicators can get into routines and sort of tried and tested tactics. And I think one of the most wonderful things, one of our B2B marketers used it recently to build a go-to-market plan, and it brought up a couple things that she just hadn't worked with in a while. And so I think, again, the power of the AI is really in the operator, but it's also helping so many of us, I think, be comprehensive and thoughtful about making sure that we're using the right tactics to reach the right people at the right time.
Yeah, I love that framing of AI as this ever-present, ever-patient mentor for someone who's early career. I think that's great. All right, it's time for a poll, so you should see it on your screen, but I will share it with you, Beth. I want to get your point of view. So what do you rely on most for decision-making? And the options are internal data, customer feedback, gut instincts, AI, LLMs, or a mix.
Definitely a mix. I think at Lyft, we really do follow the actions of our riders and drivers, as well as our enterprise partners and our advertisers on, I would say, a daily, if not weekly basis. And so we're really using the way the marketplace is performing to make a lot of our decisions. And then we're also just looking at the macro environment. Macroeconomics has such an impact on the way our marketplace performs. And so I would say it's definitely a combination of what I would call our internal data and our customer data are sort of one and the same. But then, the macroeconomic environment, and then a lot of the work that we do with you guys and making sure that the things that we're building and innovating are things that people actually want.
Yeah, I love that. I know the macro, that's key. I think one of the things that SurveyMonkey and Lyft have in common is our volume. So just millions of people take surveys on SurveyMonkey every single day. You're dealing with mass volume of riders and drivers and communities. And so staying in touch with the macro, I think, is critical. One of the things in this realm of AI and decision-making, so Jeff Thomas, who was a CMO, he's a Salesforce alum, he wrote this article that I read on LinkedIn, and the title was so great. It's AI Won't Save Companies That Can't Make a Decision. And I feel like so often you can have people engaged in these AI battles where the AI-led decision-making is pulling you in different directions. How do you approach this on your teams at Lyft? How are you staying grounded and close to the people who drive your business, all those drivers and riders that you're working with?
Absolutely. I think we at Lyft are incredibly fortunate that we do have a pulse on our riders and drivers on a minute-by-minute, hourly, daily basis. We can see behavior patterns changing really, really quickly, which is phenomenally interesting. And as a marketer, like one of the best gifts you could have. I think one of the other things is that we are really focused on being customer obsessed. And because, which again, I don't think you could ask a marketer whether or not they're customer obsessed. I think most marketers are in this business because we want to be customer obsessed. That said, we're also really focused on making sure that we keep the needs of our drivers and the needs of our riders and their human experience on the platform at the forefront. So, for example, Lyft is the largest provider of non-emergency medical transportation in the country. And so a lot of people across the country are using Lyft to get to critical medical appointments. And so when we think about new rider features, when we think about new features for our healthcare partners, we're keeping in mind that for some of these people, this is life-saving care. And it just really, I think as a marketer, keeps you focused on how you're speaking to people, how many times you're touching them before you expect them to take an action. You're not the center of their attention. If you have, 50 basis points of their mind share, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And so it really helps us stay focused on making sure that all of our communications, everything that we're saying to riders and drivers especially, are as high utility as possible.
Yeah. That's such a human story with so much human connection to it. I was sitting on a plane once and happened to be sitting next to this woman. I was working on a deck for an internal presentation. It was our marketing strategy for the coming year. And this woman next to me just kind of leans over and she's like, I work with mission-driven organizations and nonprofits, and I do strategy work with them. And I just want to tell you, you should start with who benefits when you achieve your mission. Because all of us, whether you're nonprofit or big company, small company, all of us care about our customers. Like you're saying, you're not in marketing without having that customer focus and centering who benefits from the decisions we make, from the work that we do every day, I think is so incredibly inspiring. And I took her advice, and I also then got one of those privacy screens to go on your laptop.
Both important.
Yes.
Both very important.
Important advances in my life. All right, it's time for another poll. So for the people at home, how often are you hearing directly from your customers? And the options are daily, weekly, monthly, rarely, or never.
I mean, with us, it's daily.
Yeah.
So we also have an amazing opportunity to hear from our customers in the reviews that they provide for drivers. Our customer care team is super dialed in, is using AI where it can help scale things, is using human connection where it's really critical. So like in some of our safety technology. And I think one of the reasons I've always loved working on marketplaces is sitting on top of real interaction between real people. Again, I just think is a gift that is incredibly valuable as a marketer. And yeah, it can't be overstated how awesome it is to be able to see interactions in real time and actually then see those sort of map into whether it's a larger macroeconomic trend or a trend you're seeing in revenue or other interactions for the company. It's an incredibly unique and cool place to sit as a marketer.
Yeah. In a marketplace environment where you've got even more stakeholders than a marketer at an organization like SurveyMonkey, do you do anything special to kind of knit together the insights from the different groups to make sure you have this holistic picture of the community?
It's such a great question. One of the big things that I do with my team, so again, like any other company, we have a regular cadence of sort of executive reviews of our critical KPIs for the company. And one of the things that I do as a marketer is I digest those into something that I call focusing facts for my team. And so weekly I send, whether it's a Slack or an email, to my team to just keep us all focused on the real humans behind the platform. Yeah. So whether it's a big weather event, and then we realize that if there's a big weather event, our drivers usually aren't on the road because obviously we're more concerned with their safety. Yeah. But for some of them, if this is supplementing the income from their regular job, that means that they have to figure out how to make up that income.
Yeah.
And so we think a lot about those focusing facts. I think really help my team keep a pulse on the real humans that are powering the platform.
Yeah, I feel like all of us could benefit from something like that. I might steal that one. So one of the things we're launching today, along with this big moment for us, is our State of Curiosity report. And we're going to share that with all of you listening. But we found in there that teams are really genuinely curious, and especially about their customers. We see that expressed quite a bit. But in this day and age, speed and efficiency is really prioritized. And so that curiosity about the experiences of riders or drivers or customers or survey takers, survey makers, I think the promise of AI is that we will all get to more speed and efficiency. But you shared a quote with me before we started rolling that I really love. Will you share it with everybody listening as we think about this balancing act?
Absolutely. One of the big things that gives me, I guess, solace and promise that my job isn't going away is that I read a quote a while back about AI, and the idea was that in a world of abundance, curation is actually the power. Yeah. And I think that's just more true than ever as we get AI inputs and or AI outputs rather, and we can then as experienced professionals read through that and use our own judgment as to whether or not what you're getting back is actually what you believe is right. And so I just think the idea of curation and better partnership with some of our external partners, my internal partners who gather our real-time data, and just making sure that we have the right operational systems and processes to make sure that we're getting that data on a regular cadence and creating those moments for synthesis that are either AI-powered or human-powered. That lets us really just keep a pulse on the way our customers are shifting and hopefully get out in front of those shifts.
Yeah, I feel like it's curation and it's also specificity. We had an example very recently where we were looking at a change we made to the homepage and it looked like it was flat. But when you looked at a channel level, so the people coming in through SEO versus the people coming in through paid channels, SEO, which is our top converter, actually dipped when we made this change, but a couple paid activations went live. And so those rates went from basically 0 from the channel attribution to something.
Yeah.
And it masked, when you looked at it overall, it like masked that change.
Yeah.
And we missed it. And so I think there's this, to tie a bow on everything that we talked about today, it's like the depth of expertise of the people looking at that data, the specificity with which you can really dig in and understand the trends that are happening, and then curating those findings and sharing them out and making it a learning moment, strengthening the learning system, I think can be so important.
I will say though, just a quick comment on that. I think one of the things I'm the most excited about with AI is I think, you know, many of us who've been working in tech for a long time are not unfamiliar with that like 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. window of evening work.
The second, third shift.
Exactly. Perhaps doing some of the churning through some experiment data or something like that, where you're trying to figure out, you know, what are the drivers? Where is this coming from? And I think one of the things I'm the most excited about with AI is that if we can automate some of the analysis that I'm trying to do or some of the initial drafting that I'm trying to do in that 8 to 10 p.m. shift, I'm really excited to be able to automate some of that, and hopefully actually get more strategic thinking out of our people, out of myself, and maybe even a little bit more sleep.
A little bit more sleep, take a walk, get a new idea, shower thoughts, whatever. I love that. Okay, so I think we're coming up on time, but what I'm hearing from you and what I am really taking away from this conversation is decision making. It's still the art of everything that we do. Judgment matters, curation matters. Making those calls is still the hardest part, and AI is going to help us, but we're still necessary.
Yes.
Workplaces.
I think our jobs are quite secure. We're still very necessary. I think we're a long, long way from AI being able to do the job of really interpreting actions and behaviors of real people out in the world and responding in a thoughtful and empathetic way.
I think that's the other takeaway, right? That real human input still matters, because a snowstorm impacting people's livelihood is a problem that Lyft deeply cares about. But is AI going to understand in real time exactly what's happening there? I think real humans at the heart of your decision making still
real humans still need to get home from the airport, and real humans still need to, you know, get to their granddaughter's ballet recital. We recently launched a product called Lyft Silver, and we now see that almost a fifth of our riders are over the age of 55. And we launched that product because we had seen that our conversions from folks who were over 55 were not as steady as some of our other cohorts. And so to be able to launch that product with insight and then have just like, you know, a wonderful human response from individual people that is actually bringing them their independence. Again, it's sort of a dream scenario as a marketer.
I love that. And who benefits when you achieve your mission? It's the girl on stage.
That's right. Yeah. All of a sudden her grandparents are there.
They're there. They can make it. Thanks, Lyft Silver. Well, and thank you, Beth. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everybody tuning in with us, and enjoy the rest of the conference. It was so great talking.